These 5 table saw upgrades will help you work safer, get cleaner cuts, and even work faster. Efficiency is king. Let's go. First on the list is well, everybody knows what this is. It's a micro jig gripper, probably one of the most popular push blocks on the market. Well, they've improved it. This is the Gripper Plus, and there's a couple of changes here. One primarily being it's now at a lower price. We like lower prices. Let me show you what it can do. If you've been living under a rock and you don't know what the gripper is, it's one of the best push blocks on the market in my opinion. I've been using one for years. This one's mine. I bought it, here it is. I love it, great. I use it almost every time I use the table saw. For one, it has an adjustable base under there that will allow you to get over the top of the blade and push this across without worrying about your hand getting in the blade. We don't want that, that'd be bad. It also has an adjustable foot here, or leg, or whatever you want to call that. It'll drop down. That way if you're cutting thicker stock, it does still allow you to keep balance on this push block. And this allows you to do 3 directions of pressure to keep a safer cut. Down, as well as toward the fence and away from you or through the blade. So you're getting those 3 essential directions of pressure so you can get a good, accurate, and clean cut. That's where the gripper has always shined. It's an amazing tool. Love it. This new Gripper Plus adds a little sight window that lets you know where this middle leg is so you don't cut into it. In other words, you'll know at a glance where the blade's going to be in relation to this push block. I like this little feature. Typically you're using this push block when you're trying to make cuts and you need to be closer to the fence. That's where this really shines, and that's why this little window works so well. Right now I've got my fence set on 2 inches. If this sight window covers up the 2-inch mark, then we know that it's going to hit this center leg. If we can move this away outside that 2-inch mark or in toward the fence and it not cover up the 2 inches, then this will be clear. Still the gripper you know and love with an added feature and a lower price. You can't complain when they add stuff to it and they lower the price. I like that a lot. Now this was sent to me by my friend over at TayTools to check out, but I don't keep this and no money changed hands. I will be giving this away to one of my Tubafour Nation members. If you'd like to know more about that, link in the description. Oh, and this is optional. If you don't like that sight window on there, you don't have to put it on, but you still get it at the lower price. Next on the list, protecting the table saw top. This is probably one of the most common questions I get. How do you prevent rust from getting on the table saw top, or any cast iron top, really? There's a few methods here that you can use depending on your budget and how much elbow grease you really want to put into it. First and foremost, you could always use paste wax. I used that for quite a long time on the Delta table saw that I had. It works okay. The day you put it on, it's amazing, and then 3 days later, it's kind of gone. It just rubs off, especially if you use your table saw a lot. It will not last very long. You just have to reapply more often. That will help prevent rust on the table saw. Second method, there's a product called Bow Shield T9. I've used that before on the channel and it works pretty well. It's a Teflon coating, and again, the same thing with that. It has to be reapplied fairly often for it to be effective at keeping rust off as well as keeping that smooth glide that we all want. And the third method that I'm using today is called Carbon Method. Now, I'm not sponsored. I bought this myself. Full disclosure, they did offer to sponsor a video and I declined it because I wanted to try it for myself and see how good it was, because I've seen a bunch of videos out there on this stuff, and well, I'm always a skeptic of some of this kind of stuff, so I wanted to try it. So here we go. First thing you have to do is remove any rust and previous oils or finishes or protectants you've put on your table saw. What I like to use, I've used these for a long time on several table saws, is called Sand Flex. These are hand sanding blocks. It's basically a giant chunk of just sanding material, and it's like an eraser that you used to use in school. One of those big ones. It's like that. That's why I like them. Now it comes in coarse, medium, and fine. I like the 3-pack that I picked up here because I can take the coarse and get off any rust spots or any glue spots or anything that's gotten on top of this surface. That'll take those off. Then the medium kind of buffs those down a little more, and then the fine polishes it out. It does take a little elbow grease. It'll take you a little time, but these are effective non-chemical removers for rust. These are fantastic to have in the shop. As far as the carbon method goes, once you get your surface prepped, in other words, use those sand blocks, whatever method you're using to get rust off, or just get all those old finishes off, the next thing you want to do is clean it with some isopropyl alcohol or mineral spirits or something like that. Just pour it on a rag and wipe that off. It's just going to remove anything that was left over, dirt, grime, and some of that old protectant. Once that's done, there's a bottle of carbon cleanse. We're going to use that. We're going to spray it on and we just wipe it off with a regular rag. Do that a few times, and then that's going to remove the remainder of any grit and things like that. This goes with the carbon method, so it's one of the 3-step process here we're going to be using. Next is to put down the carbon coating. You always want to use gloves with any of this stuff. That's why I'm wearing mine. This stuff is so easy to put on. Like anybody can do it. You could use it on any surface in your shop that is metal. Now what you want to do is work in sections. The table saw is laid out in 4 sections: left, middle, right, and then extension wing. You're just gonna put this stuff on your sponge pad fairly liberally. You're not soaking it, but you do want some on there. Then you're just gonna pull it down one side of the saw. They call it a well line. You pull that down, and then you're gonna work out from there towards the center until that's perfectly coated. And what I do is I just go back over it. You can overlap each pass so that you know you're getting it fully coated, and you'll be able to see with the reflection that it's actually fully coated on there. I also did my miter bars. I just turned it on the side, rubbed it down in there. We'll do this all the way across the saw, and don't worry about getting it on the throat plate. It's perfectly fine to get put on there. It's not gonna hurt anything. Now this layer is actually what I would assume is the protectant layer. In other words, this is what's protecting your saw from rust, because there's another layer that we're gonna put on after this that will help make things glide. Again, we can put it on our extension wing too, because it's just gonna help things glide along smoother. And that's what we're really after here. Other than the protectant, we want things to just slide on this saw. It just makes it safer, easier to use. After it's applied, you're probably supposed to just do one section at a time. I went ahead and done the whole saw because I've got temperature controlled in here. It's not drying overly fast. If you start feeling it get kind of tacky while you're working with it, you'll want to go ahead and jump to this step. This kit comes with the sponge and everything you need, gloves and the microfiber cloth. This is the microfiber. Fold it in 4s, and then you're going to just start buffing it off. Wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off.
You'll be able to see when it's buffed in good too. It's pretty easy to tell. We're only going to use that one side for that section, and then you'll just flip it over and use the other side for the next section. Same thing for the next two. You're just going to flip it inside out and use the side you haven't used yet. You just want to make sure you're removing any excess that may be on the surface. Now, I did 3 coats. You can do 4 or 5, however many you feel comfortable or want to do. I think 3 is plenty. I think they recommend 3 to 4. And then you're going to let that cure for 24 hours. Once 24 hours is done, you're going to come back with this carbon glide. This is what makes it slick as owl snot. This is what you need to make your boards just slip on there. And then we're going to put this on after this cures. All right, 24 hours later, you'll come back and you'll put on the Carbon Method Carbon Glide. This is a friction reducer for metal. All that's going to do, it's going to make it's like an air hockey table now. It's going to make your tabletop slick as owl snot. If you've never heard that, if you don't know what that means, it's slick. Like, it'll slip and slide, and that reduces the friction, so it's going to make your table saw cut better. It's going to be easier to use, easier to push the wood through the blade. It's just all around good option for you, and it's also rust protected now. I like this product. It's pretty good. I got a confession to make. I'm not one of those guys that spends hours maintaining things, cleaning things. I should, but I don't put a lot of priority on it. What I like is a product I can use and I don't have to worry about it for quite a long time. And that's what I like about this Carbon Method, is it's on there and I don't have to worry about it. If it starts getting a little bit slicker, not slick enough, I can just reapply this Carbon Glide, spray it on, wipe it off. I'm back to the races, and the carbon coat is still on there. Should last a very long time, and I don't have to worry about it anymore, or for a long time anyway. I mean, I know some guys, they spend hours washing their vehicle or truck or whatever. They shine it all up and it just looks pristine. I'm not that guy. I wash mine ever so often and I'm all right. And one thing I'd like to point out on this Carbon Method stuff, this is one application and I still have over half a bottle of the carbon coat and probably over half a bottle of each of these. So I know I can at least get one more coating out of this should I need to do it down the road. Another way to prevent rust on a table saw is to simply add a dehumidifier to your shop. I talked in detail about this in my shop upgrades video that I'll link in the description. You should go check it out after this one. But that will really reduce the amount of humidity in the air, so there's not as much moisture, so the moisture's not getting on your saw, so your saw's not rusting. And if you're in a hot environment like I am in South Arkansas, it really does help. It's a dry heat then versus the humid heat. One of the easiest upgrades you can make to your table saw to make it cut cleaner, better, is just to keep the blades clean. Now there's a bunch of ways to do it. In the past I had a steel brush and some simple green and it just makes a mess. I bought this a few weeks ago. This is the simplest system that you can buy to keep the blade clean. It's all inclusive, so everything's in here, self-contained, so my cleaner stays in here. Anytime I need to clean my blade, I can drop it in here and do so quickly. Let me show you. Oh, and it will do router bits too, which we'll get to. Self-contained, so the lid pops right off. I'm using simple green for mine. I like this cleaner. It's very inexpensive. It lasts a long time. And this is what I use, so I just dump it straight in there. You can dilute it if you so choose. Some people do. I do not. This is a self-contained unit, so everything stays together. You're not going to lose anything. Be looking for it. Where'd my magnetic handle go? Oh, it does have a magnetic handle. Stick that right on your blade, put that in there. You're going to turn it counterclockwise, or away from the direction that the teeth typically cut. And there's a scrub or a scouring pad in the bottom of this that's scrubbing those teeth. And if there's anything that's stuck on there that needs a little extra attention, there is an included brass brush. It's brass, not metal. Brass won't damage your carbide teeth. You can get in there and clean those even more. I like this. Take it out, flip it over, do the other side. This white side blade that I had was pretty dirty, and you can see it looks like brand new now. It got all that funk off there. Just a good all-around way to clean your blade. Now, it's not waterproof. I do wish they would make it like sealed up top, so if I dumped it over sideways, it wouldn't spill out, but it will, so just keep this flat. One added bonus that they put in here that I'm glad they thought of is this top piece here where you can put your router bits. 1/4 or 1/2 inch, it has a space for those. I put this round over and chamfer bit in there and let them sit for about 5 minutes, just let them soak. Took them out, took the little wire brush, hit them just a minute or two. Now these look like brand new because there was some pitch built up on that as well. All in all, I think somebody will look at this, they'll go look at the price and kind of balk because it is around $100 for this, but everything is included here that you need. Well, almost everything. You get the scour pad, you get the brush, you get the magnetic handle, you can clean your router bits and your saw blades. It looks like up to 12 inches easy on the saw blades. And then the smaller blades will fit in there as well, your 8 1/4. And the only thing you got to add is whatever cleaner you prefer. And then you have a self-contained unit. You can put it on the shelf, or I'm going to slide mine under this toolbox back here, and it's ready to clean blades anytime I need them clean. You'll notice a massive difference on the way your blades cut when they're clean versus when they're dirty. They also include these scouring pads that you can use on your rotary tool if you have one. And that will basically, it's the same thing as the scouring pad in the bottom of this. That's meant to clean your bits and things like that with. So if you have a rotary tool, this might be handy for you. One of the surprise things I bought this year, it surprised me at how good it was, and a table saw upgrade at that, is the PowerTech table saw sled. I have a whole video on this I released a few weeks ago if you want to check it out after this. But if you haven't seen it, I'm going to give you a high-level overview of this. This is a very easy to put together, like within a couple of minutes I had it up and going, and it's dead accurate. You can cut 90-degree cuts, you can cut 45 up to 50 degrees. It does have a miter gauge on there, so you can slide this up, cut your miter cuts, and it does have a stop block included and a clamp to clamp down your parts and pieces, a laminate top. It does run in a single bar on your table saw. The only drawback to this is it's not really good for, it won't work well on a job site, 8 1/4 inch, the smaller type saws. If you have the bigger saws that has a little bit bigger of a table left of the blade, this will work perfect for you. If you don't want to spend the time and the effort to build your own crosscut sled, if you don't need some extra features like some that I've shown before that I put in mine, like the safer handles, the blade guard, to the right of the blade, table on there, then this might be a great option for you. This is well made. It comes with basically everything you need to get started, especially if you're a little bit intimidated on making your first table saw sled, or you just don't want to spend the time doing it. This is a good solid option, and it's priced well. I like this PowerTech, and I think it's a worthy upgrade to most any table saw. Another great upgrade to save you massive amounts of time on your table saw is a dado stack. I recently showed this CMT dado stack. It's the first ever that's legal in the EU.
I'm sorry.
Because the other ones were basically banned by regulation. Whole video on that, discussing that entire topic. But this is a really solid option, or the Freud set that I had if you don't want to worry about the EU regulations. This is a more convenient dado stack because everything locks together and you don't have to worry about things moving and stuff when you put it on the saw. It just works better in my opinion. It's easy to use. I'll link to this one as well as the Freud. But now, if you're doing a bunch of half laps or dados or anything like that, this will save tons of time. You can even use these to do some rabbiting joints and things like that as well. It's just a good all-around option to have on a table saw, especially once you've bought your ripping blade, your crosscut blade, and now you're trying to look for some additional blades for your table saw that will give it more functionality. And that's what a dado stack will do. When you start doing half laps and things like that, this will save a bunch of time and you'll be thankful you have a dado stack when you need it. This was part 2 of a series on upgrading your table saw. You gotta go watch the first part. It's gonna make your table saw safer, faster, and just more enjoyable to use. Click in the box, takes you to that video, and gets you the big old virtual fist bump. Thanks for watching.